Hi everyone, and welcome to First Blood. Oh no, wait, it isn't. It's trash talk because we had a guest not turn up, and that puts me as a producer of content in a weird position because obviously, if we go live without the guest and the show sucks, everyone says you should have waited for the guest. If we go live. Or if we wait for the guest, everyone says you should have just done something else instead. We didn't do trash talk this week. Been a little bit under the weather, and I guess it's better to fucking just send it live and try and do something for the entertainment of the people that assembled in the Twitch chat and waited for 40 minutes for someone to turn up. That didn't. And just to be clear, the individual absolutely knew what time he was due to turn up, and I'm sure he's got very good reasons for wasting my fucking time. Anyway, it's trash talk. We love a bit of trash talk. It's the show where you get to call in and talk about things that are on your mind in esports, and I ruminate with them and ruminate over them. Sorry, with you, and we arrive at some happy consensus. There's been a lot going on in esports this week, perhaps too much to encapsulate, and far be it from me to dictate what it is you call in about. But we've got obviously a few things. I mean, for example, Fnatic have finally announced their roster. The most unsurprising and long drawn out roster change in the history of roster changes. We've had we've had all sorts going on in StarCraft for a change. Lots of juicy drama in StarCraft, including Gung Fu Banda being accused of attempting to get embroiled in match fixing. I think that's a little bit disingenuous. I'm writing an article about that. We also had a StarCraft player get suspended. Lilla Kanin got suspended because they got bored during a game and violated several rules in a match that was hours long. It was a ridiculous situation. Alex Ich has surfaced. He's going to be at Brawl, the Team Brawl. Obviously, Team Liquid have moved into CS:GO now. Which is a huge surprise. It came out of the blue for even me, another big organization taking CSGO seriously after neglecting it for years. Who saw that coming? And I did dole out the second half of my Gonzo Awards, celebrating the worst of the worst in 2014. We'll probably plug those at the end because not a lot of people read them, and I think they're pretty fucking funny. But Sam, how are you doing?
I'm alright. I'm good. Just a little sick at the moment. Ill.
Still, you're ill as well.
Yeah.
Is
on time?
Is this the first? Yeah, true. Is this the first blood curse?
I doubt it. I'm a hard motherfucker. I'll live.
All right. Well, okay. That's. It's weird because I just heard your mum in the background say it was that she'd run you an ice hot bubble bath. So.
Like, I haven't even got a bath. I got a shower. Get fucked.
Whatever. I thought you were going to say, because you live in Wales, I thought you were going to say I haven't even got running water. I live in Croeseru. That's a Welsh thing. Only the Welsh will get that. Anyway, what's the first caller?
Alright, first we have a Ty, and he wants to talk about Fnatic's roster changes.
Okay, a nice and easy topic. So, Atai. Oh, I know this guy. Don't we know this guy?
Yeah.
Hello, Atai.
Hi, Richard.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm fine. I actually have been to London a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah, well, and you survived. You lived to tell the tale.
Yeah, I did. So today I want to talk about Fnatic and a little bit about Alliance. Now they're called Elements, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's start with Fnatic. What the hell have they been doing? Why is that roster?
A lot of people are asking that question. I mean, I got to say, we all saw it coming. We all knew what the lineup was going to be long before it was announced officially. But I think most Fnatic fans, with the exception of the acquisition of Forbidden, are going to feel really underwhelmed at the team going into LCS. I don't know. Are you a Fnatic fan?
Not so much actually. I was a while ago, but not now, not so much. I think they were really good, and then the whole reckless thing happened, and then when all the rumors about Xpeke wanting to start his own brand and his own team, it should have been a red light for the Fnatic organization. Like, your two star players are wanting to go, you have nothing to hold on to. Like, I mean, the least you should have done was acquire better players than fucking Rainover. Who the fuck is that? Who else? Huni, Steelback. I don't know these players. They don't even have a low gamepedia. Like, they don't have their own page on there, so nobody fucking knows them. Fabivan, okay, he was a star player in H2K, but they were a challenger team, so obviously he's not an LCS level player yet. Maybe he will be, but I don't think he can handle players like Froggen. And Yellowstar is the same guy, but one support is not going to carry an entire team. I think they're going to be Gambit of last year, the same thing.
Well, let's see, right? So I'm gonna again bit of devil's advocate for you. I mean, I agree. If I was a Fnatic fan right now, I would be, worried. I'd be apprehensive about the season, and what was what it was going to entail, because ultimately you're right. We've seen top teams like Gambit Gaming go from heroes to zeros in a very short space of time. It only takes one or two roster changes, but. And this is the but. Now, my sources are telling me, scrims-wise, the bot lane of Yellowstar and Steelback are absolutely wrecking people left, right, and center. And Steelback was a highly rated challenger player when he was at SK Prime, and this is a player that has a lot of potential. I would also say, and I know Thorin's feelings about the use of the word potential, so I apologize in advance for that. But what I will say is, Fnatic do have a particularly good eye historically for picking out AD carry players. Now, that could be something by design. Maybe it's Yellowstar, for example, giving his input. Maybe it's the coaches. Maybe it's the managers. But they unearthed, they unearthed Reckless, they unearthed Pushu, however you pronounce it. They've always had this, good, a good eye for talent and to slot in what they need at any given particular moment. And obviously they also had the foresight to swap Yellowstar into a support role where he excels. He's one of the strongest supports in Europe. So they've got a strong bot lane potentially, and they've certainly got the history of unearthing bot lanes. Now, in Forbidden, you've said you don't think he'll handle going up against people like Froggen and stuff. Okay, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But what I will say is that he's LCS caliber. There's no doubt about it. I mean, what is it like? He had the number one, very briefly, I think, number one ranked account on the game. He's had 4 accounts in Challenger. He's an incredibly talented player. The only question that's ever been around for Bivin is his mentality. I think a big part of that is when you're in Challenger and there's so much stress applied to everything you do, and you've got to get into LCS to justify all of the time that you put in and get some money back, and all of that stuff. You stress, you tilt. Once you're in LCS, players generally tend to relax. You've got at least one split of the good times, and it takes that pressure off. He will have some different pressures, because filling Xpeke, who is a massive fan favorite, filling his shoes is going to be difficult, especially if he has a few bad games. But I think Forbiven's an incredible talent. I think that's the best acquisition Fnatic have made. And finally, Huni, again, or however you pronounce it, my pronunciation are terrible for these player names. Now, he's been wrecking people in scrims, wrecking people. Literally, people are like, they don't know how to play against this guy. And lots of people from Korea, including that Twitter account, Inside Korea LOL Esports, or whatever it's called, he said this guy is a genuine top contender. He's been like a dirty little secret in solo queue for a long time, and this guy is going to be good. So what if Fnatic have pulled off some sort of genius masterstroke?
Yeah, but the main things you said is scrims and potential. We all know that scrims don't mean a lot because a lot of people said that think EG ranked people in scrims and they only got good like in the end of the split when it didn't matter. And solo queue and potential is CLG stuff. Like where is CLG now? You know what I mean? And
Yeah, of course.
you have other teams like Elements. You have SK with their new roster, which I think is really good, and you have Gambit and you have Rocket. So do you think that the new Fnatic lineup can match up to those four?
Well, look, on paper, here's the thing. When we talk about those teams, we're dealing with players that are known quantities. Fnatic are gambling here, sure, but that doesn't mean it's not a gamble that's not going to pay off. I mean, there's always going to be an anomaly, a player that people, maybe don't know too much about, who comes in and takes the scene by storm. This happens in esports all the time. People can't quite believe when it does happen, because everyone likes to pretend that we're all super informed and the status quo is the status quo and it will always be that way. But it does happen, and it happens probably more often in esports than it does in real sports. Now, if Huni is if Huni is a good as good a pickup as people are saying from scrims, I think that could be a real wild card for them, because this is the thing I find surprising. When I was doing my investigations into the story, apparently they were always replacing SOAS. So even if XPeke had stayed, even if they didn't lose Reckless to Alliance or Elements, SOAS was always going to be going. They were always going to replace him. They were actively looking for top laners.
Yeah,
I find
SOAS sucked.
I find that incredible. I find that incredible. But surely that implies then, because they were wanting to replace SOAS, it was a plan. They must have looked at several top laners, and sure, okay, they perhaps thought maybe we can get Odawamni from H2K, and I'm not saying that they didn't have a long, hard look at lots of different players, but maybe they've got their man. Maybe it isn't as desperate a pick as it looks. I imagine he's been on the Fnatic radar for quite a while.
Okay. So another two problems. Well, not a problem, but another two things I want to say about it. First of all, you have the communication problems because they are Koreans, and we've seen how Koreans handle the European and the Western scene as a whole. They can't do it. Like you've brought players like Macnoon, and you've brought which had a decent English. Like he could talk and still shot the bed when it mattered. You had players like the mid laner, I forgot his name, Ryu, which now is in H2K, which also had massive communication problems. And if you're going to sign a Korean, why not, for example, sign Impact, who went to Team Impulse, which they also signed nobodies. I don't know what happened there, but why not take someone in the caliber of Impact, for example? Like they have the money, so why not?
Well, I do see what you're saying. I mean, look, I don't know. It probably looks, from the way I've reported on it and the things I've said on First Blood and said on other shows, is that I'm not very sympathetic to Fnatic's plight. That actually I'm being quite harsh towards them. But they've had to deal with something that I think is incredibly unique, and that is nobody could. I don't think they could have foresaw all of the losing so many star players. I think probably is what they were thinking was, I know they wanted to replace Cyanide for sure. That, in fact, might have been the kind of thing that lit the torch paper, because obviously XPeke was very close to Cyanide, and I think they'd looked at other junglers. Then obviously they came up with the idea of, well, we're going to replace SOAS as well. I think those are the two choices they would have wanted. But they wanted to retain all the rest of their team.
Yeah, but
Then obviously, yeah. So go on.
Yeah, but Expected didn't sign Cyanide also, so what was going on there?
Well, but they're still bros. I mean, they're still friends. I mean, I would imagine. But put it this way again: this is all conjecture. This is all pure speculation. But if you were to talk to the players and listen to all the gossip and all that bullshit that I have to disseminate through and pick out the facts, one particular narrative was that because Fnatic, right, Xpeke had basically lost patience with the Fnatic management, and the two things that had done it were the replacing of Cyanide, the proposed replacing of Cyanide. Apparently, he wasn't too happy about that, and also the way they handled the Reckless situation, where I think Xpeke felt a little bit disrespected by Reckless and the way he'd been courting Alliance at the time very publicly in a way that everybody knew. It wasn't a secret that he wanted to join Alliance. And I think the way that the management handled it were what made Xpeke say, you know what, I've thought about doing this before. Now this is the time to jump for me because this is just poor management. And that's effectively what a lot of people were saying happened.
He's right.
Well, yeah, possibly he is, if that's true. And again, I can't speak for Xpeke. I mean, I'm sure he's too professional and conscientious to ever go public or to ever tell us the full story. So, again, the caveat is that's what I heard. I wouldn't put my name to it or report it as a fact, but that's what a lot of people were saying. So I think, Fnatic probably were a little bit caught off guard. They were like, holy shit. All of us, they had a monumental task. You've got to replace the most popular player, if social media is anything to go by, in League of Legends. Full stop. You're losing an experienced top laner. Okay, sure, maybe you want to replace them. You're losing the best Western AD carry. Those are huge shoes to fill. So I mean, I don't think, but perhaps even more so than what Gambit had to overcome when they lost all of their star players.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm sympathetic. I agree they probably should have done more, but I also get why they were a little bit desperate when this situation started spiraling out of control, because you've got deadlines, you've got to get players signed up, and I think in a short space of time they've probably done the best that they can, which maybe the best they've done isn't good enough for a brand like Fnatic. But if they have a disastrous split, and I don't think they'll get relegated. I don't think that'll happen. That truly would be disastrous. I think they'll struggle, but I don't think they'll get relegated. And if that's the case and they do struggle, I'm sure they'll change it. I'm sure they'll, be like, okay, this experiment failed. We'll have another off season between splits, and we'll recruit players that can do a better job for us. I mean, Fnatic know how vitally important their LCS status is to the organization.
Yeah, I think it was more indifference and cockiness than they were surprised, because the Xpeke thing and the Reckless things happened like months ago, and they could have signed better players. They just, for some reason, didn't. I think they didn't think that Xpeke would actually leave, because I think people thought it was just a threat and not actually something valid. And so they said, well, he's not going to leave, we're fine. We'll just get an AD carry and we're good. And then he dropped the bomb, and then they were, holy fuck, what are we doing now? And then they poached Fabivan and got 2 new Koreans. I really hope for Fnatic fans and for esports that they will do well and they won't get relegated, because Fnatic, like CLG and like other names, is really huge in League of Legends. But still, I'm not sure about their future.
There's actually a bigger argument here, and that is that imagine if they pick up these relatively unknown Koreans, and they're the Koreans that succeed in the West. They're the ones that have the biggest impact. I think that would be, incredibly dangerous for the future of lots of aspiring European players. Because, I mean, we all know that so far, a lot of Koreans that have traveled to the West, it hasn't really worked out. I mean, certainly we're not always acquiring top talent. But if these players do turn out to have a huge impact on the season, and I think there's an outside chance Hooney might. I'm less convinced by Rainover.
Rainover. Yeah. That's why I'm excited about Piglet. I want to see how he's doing.
Oh well, I think Piglet will absolutely wreck people. You can't doubt Piglet's pedigree. Anyway, there was another point that you wanted to make, another thing you wanted to call about.
I wanted to talk about Alliance and the new rebranding thing. Like I'll send Sam a picture in a minute. I want him to let people see this. Someone posted this on.
Oh yes, Sam, do bring this picture up. Yeah,
it's from a tutorial on how to do logos in Photoshop. That I laughed for hours. I'm serious. That was so hilarious.
I know, man. I saw this myself. I really want to credit the chap that posted this, but I don't know who it was. And if you are the person and you're watching this, please step forward and claim credit for finding this, because this was absolute genius. You know, to even locate this. But you're absolutely right, Itai. What this looks like is a serious esports organization, one that's backed by the Good Game Agency, has actually elected to have a logo that is near identical. I won't say identical because the color scheme is slightly different. Are you zooming in on the naked woman there, Sam? You did. You zoomed in. There was like a woman in her underwear, and it just like Shazam. But anyway.
Cropping.
Yeah, whatever. I bet you're cropping. I can hear you cropping from here, you dirty bastard. Creeping. But anyway, if you want to bring it back on screen, the logo, absolutely looks like this tutorial here, and I can't believe it, because that logo, along with, did you read the thing they wrote, Itai? Did you read it?
Itai, yeah.
Sorry, Itai. My bad. Again, I've already established my pronunciation is terrible.
Yeah, something about what is it? Wicked being a rock and.
Yeah. Well, maybe hang on. Let me see if I can bring it up. I'll get it. Let me quickly do some type-a-rooney.
That was cringe-worthy.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. And this is what I mean. Loads of people said, it's a joke though, right? They're just joking around. Because they didn't want to have to rebrand, and because effectively Elements is only really going to be a League of Legends team now, apparently, and I don't know if that's true or not. They just chose brands that were deliberately, they were throwaway just to kind of like have a bit of fun. They didn't really care about it. But yeah, look, the elements emerge in fluid motion. Nif dictates the flow of the game. With speed and grace, Froggen sweeps his foes off their feet. Shook puts the heat under his enemies and fires them up. Through iron will and determination, Reckless delivers solid plays, while the stout and sturdy Wicked puts all of his opponents in the ground. Which by the way, I mean, we've had Wicked on First Blood, and I love Mike to bits, but puts all of his opponents in the ground. I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, isn't it, really? But yeah, and look, I'm sure the players have had a laugh about that. When they read that, they must have been laughing their ass off.
Yeah, but Alliance didn't have a good reputation for those kind of things. When they brought a new team and everyone was hyping them, and they lost like 0-4 in the first week of LCS, and then when they lost to Kaboom, and now this thing, like, their reputation is not really good. And now you make a joke of yourself with that name and Facebook. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
I agree. Look, is it the best branding I've ever come across? It certainly isn't. The logo, it was kind of like, yeah, okay, it's a bit generic. Then when I saw that tutorial, I was like, holy shit, that's hilarious. But what are you gonna do? I mean, it's such a stupid ruling in a lot of ways, anyway. Because look, I'm all for having open, so we all know who's related to what teams. There's got to be that transparency there. I'm all for that. I was one of the people that was talking about how EG and Alliance had effectively exploited loopholes in Riot's system to be able to have two teams in opposing regions.
Yeah.
But this doesn't, insisting on a rebrand, it doesn't fix the problem, because Elements is still in GGA, and all the people, all the sponsors, or they still exert the influence between this and Winterfox. All the relationships are still in place. So I'm very baffled as to what it's actually achieved. Except now we've got two teams with shit names in the LCS. We saw something similar. I mean, the Team Liquid, no problems with that. Gravity, I don't really have too much of a problem with the name, although, of course, Gravity, it sinks, it drops to the bottom. That's what happens with Gravity, right? It's the thing that drags you down. I don't know if I'd want to be called that as a team. I don't think it's a particularly great name for, when you want to be at the top of the table, and not the bottom. But that's fair enough. But the logo, what is it, like a little fucking 8-bit spaceship? What the fuck?
Have you seen Team Impulse from LMQ with that logo? Like, I don't know what the teams are doing. I think the old EG and Alliance thing is just a deal with like Riot, so Riot could say to the fans, you see, we did something about the GGA thing. Now back off. Like, it's still the same, but because they rebranded, so a lot of people won't know that they're still under the GGA organization, and then it's like, we fixed the problem. Here you go. Now back off.
Yeah.
And they actually didn't fix anything.
So who are you going to be supporting in the LCS season? Which team do you like to cheer for?
Unfortunately, CLG, but
Wow.
I'm not expecting anything with Link still in the mid lane, and I like Xmithy, but he's past his prime. I don't know if he'll be good. I hope he will, but I'm taking a risk. I'm a CLG fan at heart. I was a Vulcan fan when they were a team, but now I have to go with CLG.
Well, look, dude, I'll tell you this. In the same way that I think Fnatic are in for a long season and a fall from grace, I think CLG, I think it's going to be a tough old season for them.
Yeah,
This year. I look at the teams that are in the split, and I think about their roster and how certain members of that roster have performed of late, and I don't know, man. I can't place CLG.
in the top.
In the top of the table, like, at all. It's going to be. I mean, seriously, you look at some of the teams like, Winterfox and Liquid even, and
Actually, GP10 placed Winterfox in like sixth place.
I don't necessarily think that's all that bad. I mean, I think Dignitas, they're a bit of an unknown quantity, and we didn't really get to learn too much about them at IEM. So, but just looking at Coast, we don't know how good Coast are going to be within that context. I think CLG could be in for a rough old time, brother. So
Yeah, actually, I think NA is going to suck this season because they're really stepped off with all the roster changes. Like, everyone is a downgrade except from Liquid. From Team Liquid, every team downgraded. Like LMQ, Dignitas, CLG, everyone downgraded. Like, NA is going to suck this season.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's always been a more entertaining region. I'm just hoping there'll be lots of drama to make up for it. But anyway, we must move on and take another call at Itai. I'll pronounce your name right at the end. There you go.
Yeah.
No worries. Thanks a lot for calling in, and no doubt I'll hear from you again. You look after yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you, Richard. Bye.
All the best. There you go. Look at Itai. Hey, Itai's a nice guy, isn't he? He even says goodbye to you.
Yeah. Because he respects me, because he had to message me. Well, he didn't have to. He does message me 90 times to get on every week.
You've built up a bit of a rapport. You've You found a friend. I'm so proud of this moment. But yeah, I think he makes a couple of good points. First of all, I think if you're a Fnatic fan, and I'd love to hear from some Fnatic fans. If you're a Fnatic fan and optimistic about the season, call in, because I haven't found one of you yet. There must be one of you out there who hasn't gone for the razor blades, ahead of this season. Don't run the bath just yet. It might not be as bad as you think. But if you are a Fnatic optimist, call in. I'd call @trashtalk on Skype. I'd love to hear from you. The other point I think he makes is, and Sam, I'll get your opinion on this for what it's worth. The branding situation in League of Legends. The branding's getting. Are they serious?
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. Most of the old ones are better. Like Copenhagen Wolves is a good name. It's got like a country. It gives some nationalism, and then
Do you think so?
Yeah, I like Copenhagen Wolves.
I've always said this. I think when you align yourself to an animal, there has to be something about that animal.
Yeah, it's like a pack of wolves. They always
I'm familiar that wolves travel in packs. I've observed this phenomenon on many a documentary. But the point I'm trying to make is, like, it's Denmark, dude.
True, yeah.
Copenhagen Wolves, like, I mean, okay, this is a shit one. You wouldn't want this, but like, if you wanted a brand that had a bit like Copenhagen Mermaids, that would make sense. Because Hans Christian Andersen,
Copenhagen Sirens.
Could be, but that would work. That is a play on words. But, I just don't get anything. What's it? Lupine about Denmark really as a whole. I'm sure there'll be some Danish person, in the chat who goes, "Well, actually, we had wild wolves up until 1906 when our King Ragnar decided that they must all be destroyed." I look forward to seeing that posted, but until then, I love Copenhagen Wolves. It's just, as a brand, they're a great organization, but as a brand, meh. But it's still better than all of this shit.
Yeah.
This new wave of shit that's coming out at the moment is just, beyond anything. Yeah, SK Gaming, Schroet Commando.
Is that even what it stands for? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's what it stands for. Yeah, Scroat Commandos. We used to jestingly call them back in the day. So, but anyway, I don't know. If you're thinking about branding a team, I think can we just start? Can we have some manly teams? Can we have some manly team names? Team Ultra Violence. And the logo. The logo is just a smashed head. Something like that. Because I'm getting a bit tired of all of this. Unicorns of Love, and I want my teams to be called the Killers. I want it to be like fucking Blood Bowl or something. Anyway, on that Games Workshop reference, I think we'll take another caller. Sam, who have we got, and what do they want to talk about?
And next we have Heyoka, and he wants to talk about if there was a players' union, /rights, what the ideal situation would be for it to succeed.
Fuck me, this is a lofty
Bit of a
topic.
deep call.
Yeah, it's going to be deep. Hello, Heyoka, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Hey, awesome, dude. Well, thanks for calling into the show. Bit of a contrast to the previous topic, which was a little bit of fun and frivolity. Now we're going to talk about something that's incredibly serious, and that is obviously a team stroke players union in esports and what form it would take. It's something I had to talk about not that long ago at the previous DreamHack on a panel that I mediated. And we didn't find any answers there. I'm guessing you've got something in mind. What are your thoughts?
Well, I wanted to talk about what an ideal players' union would consist of, first of all. And who it would consist of.
Okay.
Because we obviously just can't have it run by owners. It can't
Absolutely.
be run by Riot.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes us so different from traditional sports is that we have a producer of our game.
So, well, come on then. I mean, who do you think should be in it? I certainly agree. I think, okay, we can't have owners in it. And we can't have a games producer in it necessarily, although there's an argument that maybe you could. Certainly where Valve are concerned, a lot of people seem to think actually Valve care about the players and they look to prevent the players being exploited by the organizations. You know, we've seen that in Dota on a couple of occasions that I can think of. So it has to be players, obviously, but who's going to represent? If the problem is that players don't always know what's best for players, then how do we have players best represent themselves?
Well, ex-players is the first thing. You know, retired players is the obvious one. But I think all the parties have to be represented in this union. They all need a seat at the table if we're going to do it right. Otherwise, you know, we'll run into power issues.
So here's another problem we've got then. First, funding. Funding is one of the huge issues with any form of union, because effectively a union needs to generate its own revenue. Because if it's sponsored or, you know, otherwise funded by a corporate entity, there is always the chance that it doesn't represent the best interests of its constituent members. So, for example, let's say Steel Series, just to, as again, randomly name a peripheral company. Let's say, hey, we're going to fund the players' union. And everyone was like, oh, that's great. And whenever there was a contract dispute, it provided free legal counsel and the players got it and they were all happy with it. And then an instance came up where a Steel Series sponsorship hadn't been paid. And the union were like, well, we're not going to pay the money to fight that case because, you know, it's against our interests. And then everyone's left scratching their head thinking, well, what the fuck? So this is why unions generally generate their own revenue from the members. But to get all the members together to put money in, you've got to be promising them something. If you want to pay a subscription in order to get a service, I need to be able to guarantee that service. And legal consultation isn't cheap. So if all of you people chip in, like you do with a real trade union, and we don't generate enough money to actually give one person legal consultation, and we can't provide the services that we promise, then the whole union fails and it looks like a cash grab. So it's incredibly difficult. It needs to have almost like a slush fund of money in place to begin with. So what you would need is a philanthropist ultimately, and even then that's still problematic. Have you given any thought to how you would fund a player union?
Nope, but I've thought about not having one until esports is in a place to where it can fund it just outright.
What do you sorry, go on.
Do you think we just wait until we can fund a union to do it? Or do you think that we need like a grassroots movement now?
I think we're stuck in a chicken and egg situation, to be honest with you, Hayoka, because as I see it, we need a union. Players are getting ripped left, right, and center every day in esports. I hear about it all the time. You know, I see players that are owed money from organizations, sponsors, tournaments, and they don't get it. I see organizations completely renege on their duty of care to players, put them in incredibly difficult and stressful situations. I see streaming contracts that are handed out to players that insist they stream a very unhealthy amount of hours to get the money that they're due. And I see contracts that actually are signed willy-nilly without, you know, any forethought as to what the long-term consequences can be, and nobody there to advise the players on what rights they're signing away. You know, we saw this with the LCS contracts and how you control image rights, and that actually in an LCS contract, it specifically states that we can not just use your image, but manipulate your image. So even if you retire from the game, so let's say, for example, you were a League of Legends player 1 week, and you were, you know, someone that they wanted to endorse the game, and then you went over to Dota, and you renounced League of Legends, or you wanted to play any other game. Well, it could affect, potentially it could affect sponsorship deals if Riot then still decided, for example, to use your face to promote their game. But they'd be well within their rights to do it. You signed that contract away. And this is one of the reasons why I paid money out of my own pocket to get a lawyer to review a contract, because I felt passionately about making people aware that you've got to think about what you're signing. So I am. We absolutely need a union. We absolutely need one, mainly just to protect players from a combination of exploitative entities within esports, but also their own naivety in a lot of ways. These are not old, world-wise people. These are young adults, and in in the same way, there's lots of things in life that are going to be confusing. No one comes up to you and says, "Hey, do you want a mortgage at 16 years old?" Even at 18, you're not going to get one. But we actually expect people to enter into quite deep and complex levels of contracts in esports. Now, to the second part of it, how do we get it? I don't know. I can't answer that question for you. If I could, I think I'd start it myself, because it's the one thing I'm really passionate about: advocacy. Like the advocating player rights, and I can't think of a way that would keep it free from bias if somebody put the money in. Like, even if I did it myself. So let's follow this idea through. If I did it myself, if I put all of my own savings, like I have any, but imagine I did, and I put all of my savings into creating a player union, bankrupted myself effectively to do it, but the money was there. Whatever service you need was catered for. I'd control that. Am I going to act responsibly enough if a player who's shit on me in the past publicly, who I don't like, or an organization that's accused me of being a liar in my former life as a journalist, if they want to suck money out of that slush fund, how am I going to feel about it? Can I trust myself to say, well, actually, fair's fair? Maybe I can, but I don't know, maybe I can't. So even on an individual basis, your inherent prejudices come to the forefront. That's why it needs to be funded by the members for the members, but you can't get enough members. So unless there's lawyers out there willing to work on pro bono to get experience or whatever, I don't see how it's viable right now.
Yep, I didn't see it either, man. I remember the article you were talking about.
Yeah.
The lawyer at the end is like, I wouldn't sign this.
Yeah. I mean,
I advise you not to sign this.
Yeah, I would advise
That's
my
literally
clients
what
not
he
to
said.
sign it. Yeah, that is what he said, and this is what I mean. Though it's like, what do we do? We're in this catch-22 situation where there isn't any sane way out of it. Yeah, we can't do it. I mean, people are saying, okay, let's do a Kickstarter, but actually, a trade union, you couldn't create one with a Kickstarter, because the money has to be specifically used for a product you deliver at the end. It can't just be a slush fund for things that may or may not happen. So I've even looked at that. I've even looked at all the crowdfunding options, but there isn't anything that potentially covers what we need to do. What are your thoughts just about, I mean, again, I don't know if you've had any experience of it. I don't know if you've ever been a player or anything like that, but what are your thoughts about the problems facing players? And I'm guessing you do think we need a union, someone to look after player rights.
Yeah, I mean, you see all kinds of corruption, like things like the Promise situation in Korea. You don't want things like that tarnishing your game. That's not good.
Yeah, of course not. And well, I mean, and not only that, I mean, I think one of the key things that I feel most frustrated about in esports is there's really nowhere. If you're in a situation, again, like the Promise situation, where you're effectively being bullied by a manager. Let's say you work for a company. And it doesn't always work this way in practice, but it does in theory it does. If you're being bullied by someone that's higher up, you can go to your human resources department. They'll conduct an investigation. Sometimes you'll get swapped teams. So you have a different manager, or the manager will get disciplined, maybe even fired, depending on the level of abuse. There are structures, there are rules in place that protect you in that working environment. We haven't even got that in esports. Like, what esports organization has an HR department? I bet you could count them on one hand. And this is what I mean. When a player is being like maybe bullied by a manager, like they were in that team, in Promise's team, or if they're being otherwise exploited. What about that other team that were forced to just elo boost around the clock in some like terrible little slum? It like that was meant to be a gaming house, but was just like 5 roll-up mattresses on the floor, and all they did all day to fund the team was elo boost, like at metaphorical gunpoint. Who do those players turn to? And that's what I mean. A lot of the time, it falls to people like me, the journalist. We'll put the story out into the public domain, but even then, the players get shit on when they go public, either by the fans or sometimes the organizations. Oh well, you can't tell our secrets, even though we're being completely unethical and we're treating you in a way that would see us go to court if it was any legitimate business. We go to prison for what we're doing to you. But you can't say anything about it public. You violated an NDA, so the player gets into more trouble. They're terrified, caught between a rock and a hard place. And I see this way more than I would like to. It makes me incredibly upset. And that's what I mean. I think the first step in a trade union is having an advisory board. Just people who are willing to give up their own free time to talk to players and lend their experience for free, like a lot of us in the industry do anyway, but players know where to find it. It's anonymous. How, like, for drugs, you've got a hotline, yeah? Talk to Frank. Or if you're feeling suicidal, you call the Samaritans. We need that equivalent within esports where you can go and it's anonymous and you can talk to somebody and just talk the problem out. That's what we need. And that would be the first step, I think, on the path towards a union. We're trying to get to somewhere we can't. We're like trying to fly before we can walk. And I think if we take that first step, maybe we can fix the problems.
And that's what I had here in my notes is what if we created a unit where we just provided legal counsel? Obviously, the funding is still an issue, but we don't deal with contract negotiations. We don't deal with any of that until we make sure that our players are cared for.
Yeah, and at the moment, a lot of that care, actually, it's interesting. It's coming down to agents, which it's good. It's, again, having an agent is great. I've got an agent. Agents go out and get me work. They get me paid. It's fantastic. They take 20%, but it's 20% something you wouldn't have had anyway. So fuck it. Happy to pay the 20%. Because 80% is better than 0. That's basic maths. But a lot of the time, these agents, they're not. I mean, it's different for me. I get a lot of moral support actually from my agent, but that there are probably going to be agencies that spring up in the near future. And I remember reading an article about the Chinese scene and rogue agents. There's going to be agents that are posturing as caring about the player and telling them what they want to hear, and all they're going to do is just fleece them, get paid, and then dump them. An agent isn't necessarily the solution, but that seems to be what players are gravitating towards now to protect player rights and player interests. So it's an incredibly difficult situation. I mean, for me, and this might sound a bit like the Elements press release, but what I like to see is I'd like to see some very old, experienced, trustworthy esports heads. People that have never been embroiled in anything negative about players and have worked in the industry for a long time, and just be there, just give up, just volunteer some of their time to deal with player issues and be somewhere just in an easily findable place, be it a website or whatever, and or subreddit or however you want to do it. People can message you on throwaways or whatever, and they just give up their time to tell players, look, this is a difficult situation for you. This is what you can do. You can talk to these people. I know this lawyer. He can review the code. Whatever it is. But I think that's what we would need to do first. We need to move away from the systems we've got in place right now, where wolves are just being the wolves are just waiting for the food to just be dropped down, which is the players. That everyone knows how to exploit people in this business, but not as many people know how to help people. So I think that covers the point. So look, it was great to talk to you about this. Heyoka, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, one last thing.
Mm.
What about growing the collegiate scene and using that as a role model for a player union in the future? Because at the collegiate scene, there is somewhere you can go
Mm.
with
Yeah,
if you're being bullied by a manager.
yeah,
And
that's great.
the actual collegiate scene is pitiful right now. I mean, the collegiate star league is there, but any given team you know, has silver and bronze players on it.
Mm. I think the reason why the collegiate system works and the reason why you could attach some union or any form of advisory body to it is because when you're in a collegiate system, there is already that duty of care. There is already a contract in place where those people have to, provide you a complete list of services that you agree when you enter into the college system. So you have entitlements, you have rights. That you can go to people with problems. Basically there's a support unit in place. There's a support mechanism in place for you already. If anything, I would say collegiate players are better positioned than professionals in this regard because while they may not make money in the same way or they may get no exposure, at least if anyone was trying to exploit them, which of course, because they're not as high profile, they'd be a lot less likely to do because there's not as much to exploit. You would, you would be protected. I mean, they have protections that pro players don't actually, and that should scare a lot of people, I think. But anyway, I'll let you have a final point because I heard you do an intake of breath there, so I know you're going to say something, and then we'll move on to the next call. But yeah, what are your final points?
No, I was just agreeing. That's
Oh,
all I
great.
got, man.
Hey, don't worry about it, man. Look, it's a hugely complex issue, and there's so many different facets to it to talk about. You're never going to get to a definitive answer. It's a problem I think that many people have pondered on in esports for a long time, and certainly it's going to take better people than me, I think, to get to the solution. But definitely, I thank you very much for bringing it up, Hayok, and I hope to have you on the show again sometime in the future. You take care of yourself.
Yeah, you too, man.
All the best, brother. Peace. So there we go, Sam. Now I'll bring you in here. Uh, what do you think about unions?
Um, I think the best way to do it now is through agents because you're not going to be able to get the cash pile together that it would take to form a union. So I think individual agents is definitely the way to go for now, at least, until I don't know, maybe a group like Kesper or something like that decides that they need a union and they're willing to put majority of the money in. I don't think you'll ever get the cash needed.
Mm. Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't know though. I think it was Thorin that said, what was it? Hang on. I'm gonna get the exact quote. I want to know who said it 'cause it's a great quote, and I can't just keep attributing it uh, to Thorin because as great a quote as it is, I don't think it's down to him. So he said having agents or player having player managers or even tournament organizers or sitting on some sort of union would be like the quote about democracy, which is democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for dinner. I think that's attributed to Ben Franklin. So and I think that's what you get if you have agents representing player interests, because let's not forget, sure, they'll be very cognizant about how to get more money for a player because their percentage comes out of that. But are they going to be cognizant about what to do if the player is in unsatisfactory working conditions, or if the player goes to a tournament and certain provisions aren't made for them, or things like this? And I imagine an agent is going to be less concerned with that.
Well, that will change with more agents that come in, right? Say if right now there's like I don't know 3 maybe management positions. If there was 20, well, you're gonna go with the one that treats you best. Maybe this one comes with free legal consultation, even if it doesn't give them any money, and they look after your contracts for you. Then that's a lot better of a deal than going with someone who might earn you more money but not look after for things that don't have money gain.
But again, we don't have a big enough we don't have a broad enough spread of agencies at the moment to be able to discern it.
True.
You've got GGA, which, I mean, again, they pose as an agency. I'm not too sure they are.
Yeah.
Actually, they feel more like a conglomerate. I'm sure the people in that conglomerate do very well for themselves, but in actual fact, their alignment with Twitch, it's predicated. It's about the self-interest of the people within that group. It's not about. It's not open to everybody. If you're a shit team that GGA don't want to touch, then you're not going to get the benefits of being in that agency. It's not free for all. So to call itself a union like it wanted to be is disingenuous. A union's open to all. It's why it's called a fucking union. It's a union for of everybody. So yeah, there's not a lot of agencies even or individual agents. And again, I think that'll change. I think 2015. I think a lot of people are realizing that agencies are the next way to get paid.
Yep.
Because if you look at all the people that are setting them up, they're all money grabbing. So, but anyway, it's a problem for another day. I'll never fix it. So let's take a break anyway, guys. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. Again, apologies if you were tuning in expecting First Blood. That's what happens when you get unreliable guests. But we'll keep the show going. We'll be back in 5 minutes with more of your calls about esports. Don't go anywhere. and surrender. So, welcome back to Trash Talk, where we're taking calls about all things esports. We've already had two interesting callers today talking about Fnatic's new roster and how it, according to the caller at least, was bad. Branding, which has gone wild in League of Legends. It's incredible. They're naming League of Legends teams like sweets for fucking kids these days. Like, Team Starburst. It's just like it's getting out of fucking hand. Perhaps you've got some thoughts on that. If you want to talk about that, I'd call that Trash Talk on Skype. And the other call was talking about player unions and how it would all work. It's a huge question and something we're not likely to get to the bottom of anytime soon. So, Sam, a caller.
Next we have John, and he wants to talk about the SMITE World Championships and why he believes SMITE has a chance to overtake Dota and Challenge League in NA. Big claims.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna make sure you haven't paraphrased the caller here because that is a big claim.
Straight rendition.
Okay, special rendition. Hi, can you hear me?
Yo, what's up, Richard?
Hey, what's happening, dude? How are you this fine evening?
Friday.
Fine evening.
Oh,
no,
fine.
Friday. It's Friday, the aliens have got me again.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing well in my bedroom. In my basement alone, drinking.
Good.
I'm
suck it, man.
slowly turning into you, Richard.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say we're similar personalities. This is just water. But anyway, so according to Sam, you've made some bold claims. Perhaps you'd
have
for us.
I have made some bold claims. I actually believe that SMITE is, at least in America right now, in position to challenge League of Legends. At least when it comes to, I guess, popularity, at least among the East Coast and the Midwest.
Okay. Now look, I have obviously followed SMITE from afar. I did do some reporting on it, and after Jerby Gate, which if you've followed my work, you might have come across that when Jerby was at Root, and indeed the aftermath of Root fanboys and even some Root staff in some cases cyberstalking me. I thought, you know what, maybe SMITE isn't the game for me. But the people who make it high res are really cool. I think the scenes get improving every day, and I was excited by the World Finals as well with a record amount of prize money. It was great. I mean, eclipsed only by the International. However, I've got to say, I don't know if I can agree with your claims. They seem incredibly bold. So can you justify why you're making them? Or is this just feel good?
No, I think there is serious justification behind it, especially when it comes to East Coast players. For those of you who were on Reddit basically over Christmas, there were basically the big thing to bitch about to Riot was there's no East Coast servers. The game's unplayable, blah, 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 which is an overstatement and dramatized by the masses. But first off, I think that as I've been playing it recently and checking my ping and stuff like that, their servers are in Atlanta. They have a your ping average all the way up here where I'm staying currently in Rhode Island. Your ping is something close to like 20 compared to the 140 to 150 ping you would get on League of Legends currently, because I don't know, they moved their servers not to a better location for the East Coast people, and they moved it over there. And if you look actually recently at the, how do I put this? If you look at the maps of breakdown where the players are growing mostly for League of Legends, it is in the, I guess, northeastern part of the United States, which is New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. That's the area you're seeing a major influx of players playing League of Legends. So I have a feeling that, first off, I believe Smite's going to be the next big game because, as we've seen recently with the World Championships, the prize pools are huge.
Yeah.
It was $2.6 million overall for the prize pool, taking first place taking home $1.3 million. Then coming from that, I do see that this is probably the next game that the big teams are going to get into. You've seen it in past with major United States sponsored teams such as TSM, Curse at the time before Liquid took over, and other major organizations still currently hold teams like Complexity, Dignitas, Cognitive Gaming, SK, who else? There's another team I'm forgetting over in Europe, so I apologize. Titan Gaming was in there, which is, I believe, a pretty big Dota 2 company for esports. And they still have yet to breach the major markets, I think, of Asia, because China, they're still in open beta. And then they haven't even put up a server yet in Korea, which I think at this point, I would hope they do sometimes over the next season for them. They put up a server so Koreans can play, and that's when you're going to see this esports scene take off.
It'll suck for all the existing players in Smite when the Korean overlords get into their game. You should, just from past experience covering esports for a long time, you should probably enjoy this period before they come over and win everything. But there's a couple of points to pick up on, right? Because I've been listening to you, and I even made notes for you. So here's the first thing. My understanding, and this I could totally be wrong, but do they have West Coast servers, Smite?
I'm not sure. I know.
I don't think they do.
I don't think I know when you queue up in the game, you have the option to pick similar to Dota, where you can pick the servers you play on. And I'm always choosing the East Coast because I'm here on the East Coast, so I never have really looked to see where else you can queue up on from there.
Because obviously then, the point that we're making about Riot and their neglect of the East Coast would be somewhat redundant, because obviously it would be the same for Smite players, just reversed, just flipped around. Now, again, I don't know what a West Coast Smite player pings when they pick the server, but I think, I'd imagine it would be similar, right? Unless Smite was somehow better optimized than League of Legends, which maybe I won't rule out. But that can you shed any light on that at all? Do you have any friends you can quickly ask or anything? Because I'd really like to know. I'm curious.
Let me see if my brother's online. Another reason. I'm gonna be biased about here. Just say there's a little bit of bias here. My brother is one of the top players in Smite, so I'm kind of big on that, and he also agrees with me that he thinks this year's going to be Smite's year.
He would have to say that, though. If you think about it, that's like me saying, "Hey, 2015 is going to be a great year for esports journalism. I reckon we're all going to make a fortune." I have to say that and hope it's true, and the reality might be very different. But he probably does know what he's talking about. Just the other question then, because I don't know about transference. Have you, as a Smite player, or indeed your brother, now that we've got that name drop in there, have you noticed a lot of League of Legends players actually moving over to Smite, like saying, fuck League, like we're going to play Smite now because at least they care about us East Coasters?
I mean, I haven't asked them specifically, like, oh, where do you live? Like, that would be creepy as fuck.
Yeah, that would be creepy. Right?
Yeah, but I've seen a good upswing in good upswing in people saying they've come from League of Legends when I've made the mistake of calling the gods they have champions.
Yeah.
So, I think it's definitely going on the rise. I've seen a couple threads of it on their subreddit, the Smite subreddit, saying like I've recently come over from League of Legends, and that got popularity. That was on the front page sometime over the weekend. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely slowly picking up. I don't like there is flaws. I'm gonna be honest. There are major flaws within Smite's game itself that need to be corrected, but they're all correctable problems. And like you said, high res at the beginning when you brought yourself into the conversation, Hi-Rez is a very, I think, how do you put this? A very good company to
they're
work
proactive
with.
and community focused, I would say.
So they're gonna push to go, and I think they'll probably try and correct their major problems and issues, while League of Legends sort of just kind of is like, you guys are minions.
So here's another couple of questions for you. What is it about SMITE that would make me go and play it in in an already crowded MOBA market? We're going to see more MOBAs coming out, but I can get Dota 2 for free on Steam. I know Smite's free, but I can get I can get that. There's also going to be Heroes of the Storm. That's going to be coming out of beta in 2015. Blizzard make great games, and everyone's been brought up with Blizzard games. So I got the chance now to play as those Blizzard heroes. I imagine more people of this generation, somewhat depressingly, I might add, can identify with the characters from Blizzard games than they can from Egyptian or Greek or Nordic mythology. Which is, I think that's tragic, actually. I used to love that shit as a kid. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And there's going to be new games coming out, new and exciting games, like they're going to put different twists on the MOBA genre. If Smite hadn't already broke out when the market was a little bit looser, when it was a little bit easier to establish a foothold, why is the year when it's going to be more competitive? Why is that going to be the year they're going to break out? What's going to attract all these players?
Well, the first thing to answer, and I don't know if you watched the World Finals or anyone did, not anyone, but anyone in the chat did. They have their Xbox One game coming out, which is the same. It's a repackage of it, which is going to attract more of a, I guess, how do you put it, a console market into it. So that's actually an untapped
that
area
is very true.
for MOBA players. It's all computers. Secondly, when comparing League of Legends, Dota, and I think the third one in your mind when you talk about esports competitiveness, Smite, you have Smite. Sorry, 1 second. Smite is probably the second easiest, I would say, and it's way less complicated than Dota, which is the most complex game for a MOBA out there, I would assume.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair statement to make. And then I think it's almost on par with League of Legends when it comes to actual player involvement and how in-depth knowledge you have to get. So if you basically have these two, I think the hardest, I'm going to be honest again, the hardest how do you put this? The hardest transference, as I think you used the word, from League of Legends to Smite is going to be their, I guess the vision is changed. They shifted it to more of a MOBA sort of look, like behind the character than over top. And I'll admit it is a little bit tedious to get used to, but I think it's less, there's a definite option for that. There's going to be an easier way for a League of Legends player to go from League to Smite than from, let's just say, Dota to League or League to Dota.
I think having the console market come in is going to be very interesting because, you're right, that is an untapped resource in a lot of areas. I don't know how successful it's been for the Global Offensive equivalent. There was a lot of talk when Global Offensive was going to be announced on consoles, and then it all went quiet. So it's going to be interesting because MOBA, it certainly isn't a genre that we often associate with console for obvious reasons. That's not me being PC master race or anything. That's just, but I think Smite lends itself better to because of the first person elements. It lends itself better to a console than certainly a Dota or a League of Legends would. So it's going to be interesting. I won't rule it out. I think certainly it always amazes me how popular it's got, and I think Hi-Rez have been quite intelligent and smart in the way they've marketed the game, and I always see it on the Reddit front page. I'm guessing that's paid for, rather than just because the community's so big, because a lot of the threads are quite, low level, like 40, 50 comments. But every day there's a Smite thread on the front page of Reddit. So I'm guessing that's a sponsored deal or something. I don't know how that works, but I won't rule anything out. It definitely seems that Smite's got a possibility of being a breakout game. I just think the direction esports is heading. I think actually, if any one game's going to dominate the landscape in North America, alongside League of Legends, it'll probably be Global Offensive.
I think that's a fair claim to make, and assertion that Global Offensive CS:GO is the next one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way the organizations are starting to come back and starting to take it seriously. People have dipped their toes in and out of the water in Smite. And what you've got to remember is organizations, by definition, are whorish. They go where the numbers are. If the player base for Smite grows, organizations will pick up teams. It doesn't really mean a great deal about the health of an esports game. I mean, you look at some of the teams that, when World of Tanks teams, for fuck's sake. I don't know a single person that watches World of Tanks. Like, literally, I don't. But, I know organizations that have teams. I'm told they've got this huge number. I see, $1 million in prize money and growing for their leagues. But I don't know anybody who watches the game. Whenever I go on Twitch, I don't see anybody streaming World of Tanks. I'm sure it's there, but I don't know how low down I'd have to go to find it. I'm not going to look too hard, frankly. And I've sat and tried to watch a game, and I found it a toe-curlingly bad experience for me as a viewer. It's not a game that lends itself to spectators, but lo and behold, the organizations are there because there's financial inducements for having a team. As soon as the game drops off, organizations stop supporting the teams. They only want teams in relevant games for the most part. It's not about excellence across all games. It's about, having a team in a popular game with your sponsor logos on. That's how organizations think. So it'll be interesting. I hope you're right, because, like I said, I know a lot of staff over at High Res. Again, to give you an idea of how cool High Res are, they hit me up out of the blue and asked if I wanted to go to the World Finals. Just totally out of the blue. They were going to pay and everything for me to go as a journalist. Just come out, see if you like it. And I was like, I can't. It's short notice. It's my birthday weekend, so I had to say no. Otherwise, I would have gone. But what a cool thing to do. So they're nice guys. I love them. I hope they're successful, but I don't know if I can agree with you.
All right. I think that's fair, but I just want to address one point that was made in chat. And this is always getting into that cringeworthy area of a person getting offended at the chat during the call. But the point is, everyone's saying, like high name streamers in League of Legends got more views than the World Finals, for Smite, which was, I think, like 80,000 people watched at one point, was their peak number of individual viewers. League of Legends didn't take off. If you look at where League of Legends was at the time that Smite is now, like if you compare them year beta to season 1, this was their first season, where they were, League was not bringing in that many viewers. So it was, I can't remember, it was probably like around season 2 to season 3 about when they came up. And just so you know, you asked my question, like who I can talk to if I my brother got back to me and he said about 100 to 110 to 120, around that area is the ping they get.
So I mean, it does kind of seem like a similar situation. I'm kind of a little bit saddened by that, because everybody knows me. I'll never miss a chance to bash Riot. Obviously, that's what people say about me. So it kind of feels like almost the idea about people moving to League of Legends. If that was true on the East Coast, the West Coast people are obviously going to be loving their 20 ping. Living the good life. So, and it's the same with Smite, just vice versa. But anyway, look, it's great to get your opinion. We've never had a Smite call on the show before, so I hope you'll call back and talk about it some more. If indeed Smite goes on to be the biggest MOBA in 2015, you are invited to come on the show and call everyone in Twitch chat a bunch of fucking retards. Like, that is an open invitation.
All right. I will make sure I do it.
Good.
And I will enjoy it.
Great, man. Well, look, great to talk to you. Enjoy the rest of your evening drinking alone in your basement, as you put it. And hopefully I'll hear from you again in the future, brother. Take care.
Okay, bye.
There we are. So there we are, Smite Caller, chewed up by the cruel and vicious League of Legends fans that populate the chat. That's what happens when you advertise a League of Legends show. I guess so. Yeah, take it easy. Come on, we're all adults here. I prize myself on my audience being educated and open to new things. What I will say though is, again, Dong Squad. There's a guy called Dong Squad in Twitch chat. He said something fucking brilliant. He said, "Guys, Christianity is totally going to take over the world. By the way, my brother is Jesus." So, Dog Squad, I love you. Please call in. You're a funny guy. That made me chuckle. But anyway, yeah, I like Smite, Sam. You ever played it?
Yeah, I've played it a few times. A few of my friends play it. I don't know. It felt a bit hard to get into. I feel like they went straight to the compendium, which is kind of giving it a massive boost, which is why so many people had teams. Because when there's such a big prize pool, what have you got to lose? An organization, well, fuck it, we'll put 10 grand together. If they finish like top 16, we'll get our money back. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it's going to become that big. It seems, I don't know, a bit stale when you play it. It feels clunky to me. But that's just me, maybe.
Well, look, I think it's a game that's definitely improved. I played it from the beta, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
I played it again recently, a few months ago, just to see how it had come along. It was totally fucking different. It blew my mind, actually. It wasn't.
I haven't played it since beta, so maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Oh no. It's a completely different game now. Like seriously, it looks so much better. It handles so much better. You can see the clear progression, and it's got a fairly active community. There was no problems queuing up. I didn't encounter any toxicity, which I'm sure is bullshit. I'm sure everyone does. It's like when I tell people, do you know what? I've never had a game in Dota.
I haven't had a Russian.
No. Now let's not get into petty nationalistic stereotypes, Sam. That would be hugely irresponsible of me with something to lose. You can say it if you want, but I never had a bad game in Dota. I never had a game that was ruined by an asshole.
Really?
Like never. No.
I've had a few games where I had a game where a guy went 0-46, and he was trying. That's
yeah, but I mean,
makes it worse.
Can't you? You can still win, right? You can still win those games, can't you?
No.
It doesn't feel as snowbally as League of Legends.
Oh.
Like I've seen. I played on a team where we've gone like 0-20, and we've somehow won the game.
Yeah, but I don't like that. I think that negates from the game. Like in Dota, one of the recent patches. I'm not a Dota expert, so maybe this has changed now. But basically, they made the reward bounty gold like ridiculous amount. So if someone had a lot of kills, you kill them, you get like 4k gold from them. So like it would just be back-to-back throws. Like even if you win, it's a 60-minute game. So I play one game and I'm just fucking mentally exhausted. Whether I've won or lost, I'm just like fucking hell. I need to go fucking lay down after that game.
Have a pot noodle and a wine.
Yeah, de-stress.
Yeah, but no, and the thing is, because I don't invest in Dota as a game, I actually don't get stressed while I'm playing it. I just pick an easy champ. Oh, look, I'm Lich. I just sit back, pop my ulti in a team fight, job done. And I don't really get rage about it or anything. And like I say, I've had a couple of mic spammers, but that's easily fixed. Mute, play on, but I've never had a guy like just ruin a game. I've seen some shit players, but I'm a shit player. That's all right. It's not like League of Legends where it's like every fucking game, even getting out of a lobby is like the struggle, the eternal struggle. Getting out of a lobby in League of Legends where everyone picks the right role for a team as it should be in the current meta, actually doing it and doing it without argument, it's like trying to explain. It's like you've thawed out a Neanderthal man and you are trying to explain electricity to them. It cannot happen. They will never be able to get it. Their brains will not allow them to do it. And it only takes one person to be that retarded to fuck up everything for everyone.
I'm playing Vegas jungle.
The double AD carry lane bot. Just stop this. It's an erosion of the soul. It's an erosion of joy. I've never had that with any other game, actually. Like literally, never had it with any other game.
I have it with Dota, but that's just because the games are so long and it's mentally taxing. And every time I playing like a 5, and the people I play with are like 5 or 6k MMR, like 4 or 6k, something like that. So they're really good. So I'm getting bummed. They're just trying to tell me what to do, but I don't know. I think SMITE has a lot of competition, especially with how Here's a Storm coming out as well.
And guys, this isn't even Bronze 5. Me and Sam have been duoing in Plat. Now, I know a lot of people say, like, everyone's like, oh, whatever division I'm not in, that's the, that's the real elo hell. And then there's another school of thought, whichever division I'm in, that's the real elo hell. And it's just like, you guys don't understand. Until you are at the level where you are playing with the very elite players, and even then, it's all the same. It's all the same shit. It's all the same. League of Legends is the same shit no matter what level. Bronze 5 and Plat 1, the only difference, and the fucking Diamond 5, the only real difference is, slightly better decisions, slightly better mechanics, and it's the same asshole. You're the same asshole. That's it. You encounter the same assholes at any MMR. And people need to realize that. The sooner you stop thinking, like, one of the worst things you can do in League of Legends, this is how you destroy your own soul in League of Legends. This is how you actually end up so fucking chronically depressed that you don't play the game again in League of Legends. You tell yourself, if I win my promos and I get to insert next rank here, it'll all be different. And you tell yourself that, you're like, when you're in bronze, you go, I can't wait to get a silver. Then you get a silver. It's like, everyone's a cunt. It must be gold. It must be gold. The cutoff point for the cunt must be gold. So you slog away, 500 games. Oh, God. But it's going to be worth it, because as soon as I hit gold 5, no more cunts, right? Wrong. It's worse. The cunts are worse in gold 5 because they think they should be platinum or diamond. So now you've got cunts with egos, not just cunts who are dumb. So now, look, fuck it. Fuck it, Plat's got to be the level. It's got to be the level. It's got to be the level. So you slog away, you get to Plat. It's fucking worse than God. Because everyone in Plat thinks they should be motherfucking diamond or above. It's the same. It's the fucking same. It's a shower of cunts. You cannot have a game with that many players and not get a cunt in every game.
It's just ghetto, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like Rust Cole said in True Detective, it's all one ghetto, man. A giant sewer in outer space. That is solo queue. A giant sewer on West Coast servers. Yeah. So anyway, let's do another call, shall we? Before I fucking have a meltdown.
All right. Next we have Bodhi, and he wants to talk about Naniwa coming back to the StarCraft 2 scene and why it's fucking awesome.
Sweet. We love Bodhi. Bodhi's awesome.
Love a bit of Bodhi.
Yeah.
Hey, are you Richie?
What's happening, mate? I can't even do it. I'll never try an Australian accent again. That was the worst thing that's ever come out of my mouth.
Shit. What the hell was that?
Sorry, mate.
I'll just set it up so I can come through my headset. So,
I promise I'll kill myself after this show. How are you doing anyway? You good?
Not too bad, my friend. Not too bad. What have you been up to?
This and that. Again, just dealing with the slings and arrows being aimed at everyone's favorite esports journalist. But yeah, exactly. But like you, I've been not only happy to see Naniwa back, I've been really amused to see the reaction he's got all of a sudden. The same people that used to shit on this guy, the same community that used to shit on this guy week in, week out, he's a disgrace. The same people who booed him from their armchairs at home when he walked out of Katowice, all fucking now saying, it's so good he's back, it's fucking great, we're so happy to see him. Like, you weren't saying that when you were fucking emailing his sponsors, you fucking pricks. And now
it's the jerk wave, Rich. You got to be on the right side of it, brother.
But I've never seen a more pronounced jerk wave in my life, Bodhi. This is a jerk tsunami of bullshit. Unbelievable that people would effectively make a guy so unwelcome in the scene, mock him, you call him autistic, email his sponsors, drive him out of organizations, everything he does, everything he tweets, complain about it, bitch about it, moan about it, and then when he goes away, everyone goes, seems pretty boring now. Like, you this fucking dumb?
No, mate. The thing about the SC2 community is we're a bit like the reality TV show Big Brother, where for some reason anyone that's fucking half interesting or a little bit different gets voted out, and you get left with like the most boring, retarded fucking people in the circle jerk. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this show's a bit fucking shit now, ain't it? That's basically it.
And then the big brother has to be like, oh, well, why don't we have them all swim with sharks this week? Or, why don't we all give them a knife and tell them only the last one out alive is going to get the prize money? That would actually be a good idea for Big Brother. I wish they would do that. But no. So tell me why it's a good thing. Because look, man, I've always been a fan of Naniwa. I've been the one guy who's saying, love him, hate him.
The
however
one guy, Rich. It's me, mate. Come on.
Okay. There's us two. And Thorin actually. We are like the trifecta of Naniwa praise. Like the thing is, you always know where you stand with him. If he thinks you're a shit player, tells you. If he thinks your tournament shit, he tells you. If he thinks the organization shit, he tells you. If he's not happy with any minor detail, he tells you. He's honest to a fault. I much prefer that to someone that's deceptive. And he's hugely entertaining and just so happens to be a motherfucking genius at the game. What's there not to love?
Well, but you see, Rich, StarCraft 2 community, we're higher brow than other communities. We're like really civilized and advanced, like culturally and shit, from like Koreans with their like good games after it. So like we can't have bad manners in this game. It just doesn't exist, except for all of those fucking chat screenshots that keep getting leaked on a daily basis at the moment with everyone's favorite well-named, amazing, great players that never actually say anything wrong, such as Rhett, such as a bunch of others. There's no way players would actually be like that behind closed doors, is there, Rich? There's just no fucking way.
Just imagine if players were real people and not just some fucking sterile, floating, like Action Man. They just had a smooth plastic mound instead of genitals. And they just float there like Buddha, just saying, I want to thank the sponsors home. Like, do people think that's what they do when they're not on fucking camera? Like, they probably do. Because people are fucking idiots, as we've established.
That's the sad thing, mate. That's the sad thing they fucking do. But it turns out that everyone missed the fucking shit out of him. Hey?
What have you been enjoying about Naniwa's return the most?
Well, that he backs up his shit. Naniwa like never says or does anything unless he can fucking do it. He's sitting there and he's talking to all these pro players and all that sort of stuff, and they're fucking, having a bit of a dig and all your shit cunt and all that sort of stuff. And his responses are just brilliant. They're like, oh, typical ladder king with no fucking tournament results thinks he can beat me in a match. Get fucked. And then goes through on his first attempt, qualifies straight into the Premier League after a year off. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? As if that's not like the greatest shit ever. And the whole time there's all these fucking players that are all like, oh, let me have him in Challenger. Let me have Naniwa. I'm going to be the one that's going to take him down. And I guarantee you, he's going to fucking wreck him. It's going to be glorious. Mate, and he's going to post about it on Twitter afterwards.
I've said it's true to about a lot of players, but it's specifically true about Naniwa. The only person who beats Naniwa is Naniwa. Like, seriously, he's the only Westerner I've ever seen with the grasp of the game and the mechanics that's on a Korean level. I mean, this guy is that good. He's an amazing player. That's coming from someone who doesn't even really understand StarCraft, but like he's so good at it. He makes you understand it. You understand how good he is when you watch him play. But unfortunately, he's always lacked that membrane in his head that prevents external forces from putting him on tilt. Whether it's and I think at Katowice, I don't think the soundproof booths actually were a factor. I said that. I think I may even have said that to him. But I still think a player has an entitlement about whether or not they want to compete in a situation. He wasn't mentally right going into that tournament. And I remember...
He didn't even fucking want to be there.
Yeah, he was
forced to be there by his fucking team, which is like... It's crazy that even though you're like, I don't really want to play in a tournament where I've got the potential to win $100,000. But like, even though that's like insane to me, because you know what? It's $100,000 fucking dollars. Just take a chance, anyway. But that said... The fact that his team forced him to do that when he had a game versus an ST back in the days of GSL where he was forced to play a game, so he just probe rushed because he just doesn't give a shit. Like, it blows my mind that his team forced him to go to that event still because they knew what had fucking happened. But then, even better than that is that after all of that blew up and then he was like, I'm going to take a break, Alliance is like, oh, We just hope he gets better, and when he comes back, we'll be happy to pick him up again. You seen Alliance round lately? I fucking haven't. He's been back for a little bit now. Where the fuck's Alliance? Yeah, it's almost.
No one's gonna. I don't think anyone from an organization perspective. I think he can only fit into a very specific organization, and that's someone who is going to be a little bit blasé about the whole image thing, because Naniwa is going to say stuff. In fact, the best route he could possibly go down is similar to the Destiny route, to have individual sponsors that understand exactly what they're getting in bed with when they get in bed with Naniwa and don't give a fuck. They don't care, because he's great box office.
Well, that is true, but does he have the capacity to do that? I think he's a bit like Idra in the fact that he only sort of did his thing. I don't think Naniwa's like savvy in that business sense. I think he's just been playing games for the last 10 years. With Warcraft 3 and that.
Which
so,
case,
you never know. He might prove me wrong, but like, I don't know.
I hope someone steps forward and helps him out with it, because you're right. This is one of the best things that's happened to StarCraft in a while. I absolutely loved the precision with which he destroyed Happy on Twitter. It was just incredible, just absolutely wrecked him, and Happy went in for the low hanging fruit, and Naniwa just boom, there's my follow-up tweet, wrecked.
What about his one versus Cass? Cass comes on and says some shit about about fucking Naniwa, so he just like does a tweet with just Cass and Madalisk, and that's it. No text. He's like, "You want to talk to Madalisk, mate?" Fucking hell.
Honestly, he's great, and again, it's like I say, I'm so happy, because you know what, StarCraft needed a personality to come back. I mean, the fact that he's a great talent is almost by the by. The thing that StarCraft's been missing the most, I think, in a lot of cases, is personalities. I think we need to kind of ditch some of the cultural baggage we've got from the Brood War era, which is your skill alone would make up for the lack of personality that you had. And we've still got some, but ultimately it hasn't been a huge, the game's stale and the scene is stale. And when those two things happen, it does create this negative connotation. Everyone, dead game, because ultimately what is there to talk about? If the scene is stale and the game is stale, we got a fucking problem. So Naniwa coming back is brilliant. And I'm really hoping he sticks it out and does stick around for as long as it takes for him to reach that full potential that he's been so close to for a long time.
Yeah, there is another side of it too. That Naniwa and SOS are probably the only creative Protoss players in the fucking world. Like, between those two, they're the only two that actually shake up the metagame by doing crazy shit like double Stargate, Void Ray openings and stuff like that. You watch any of the other Protoss players and they go, right, open with maybe a bit of blink pressure, go into Colossus, try to get the Storm. And then you watch someone like Naniwa play and it's completely fucking different. It's a different game. And that was when StarCraft was at its most exciting, was what shit was changing every single fucking week, where the game had changed completely and you'd have to watch to keep up with it, or you just got left in the dirt. And so you fucking watched everything because you had to.
Yeah.
And it was just exciting as fuck, because like, what are they going to do this fucking week? They're going to come up, what's this? Colossus Void Ray, that shit's broken as fuck. There's no way you can beat that. And then someone's like, what about if we go Broodlord Infestor? And then, like all of those sorts of changes that just continually happen and stuff happens when people like Naniwa and SOS play, and don't when any of the other Protoss players do. So he's incredibly important in that way, because he makes the game. It's not just the fact that he's really fucking good at it, or that he's the most hilarious fucking person to follow on Twitter ever. It's just that he also makes the game twice as exciting. He's just fucking brilliant. He's ticking every box, that cunt. I was so sad when he fucking walked out. I was like,
same.
I was like, how could it be the best player that we have, not only like the best, but like the most entertaining, greatest showman sort of that we have, is like walking out to a chorus of boos. I was like, get fucked, no way. No, Naniwa.
I remember that on Twitter,
Don't leave me with the liquid TLLs of the world.
Now, I mean, obviously, I'm friends with Total Biscuit. I think he's a great guy at what he does, and we certainly buried all of our differences a long time ago. And it's great to see him still involved in esports, which ultimately he doesn't need to be at all. The money he makes and the sort of presence he has in mainstream gaming. So I've always said I think we're incredibly lucky to have him as an ambassador for our little thing, especially StarCraft. But I got to say, he did tweet at the time when Naniwa had that moment in Poland. He said, I hope that's the end of his career, and he was backed up by a lot of prominent esports personalities. And I remember thinking, that can't be how you want it to end.
Here's the thing, though, is that Naniwa's very, very, very different, and he's criminally misunderstood. The only thing that fella cares about is the game.
Yeah.
And competing. Yeah. That's all he cares about. It doesn't matter whether he cares about getting in some fucking talk show or into some Twitter showdown or anything like that. They're all just side effects of Naniwa being Naniwa. He only cares about the game, and he's fucking brilliant at it. If people don't understand that about him, then don't follow him. Don't follow his career. But if you want someone that's like a genuine entertainer, that you're like, oh shit, he's talking trash talk and he can fucking back it up, then he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. But it's a matter of what you want. And
can you imagine? Players... Do you follow snooker, Bodie?
Snooker?
Do you follow snooker? Do you follow it?
Fuck no.
Yeah, okay. I thought being antipodean.
I've seen like perfect games on fucking Facebook.
Seen balls.
That's about as far as I've gone.
Yeah, I am familiar with spheres.
Yeah, sometimes they go in the hole.
Right.
No, that's about as far as it goes.
So just follow this out, even as a non-snooker fan. Now, snooker for me, I think it's actually quite a good comparison to StarCraft, because it's effectively on the surface of it something that would sound really kind of mundane and dull, but actually has incredible layers of complexity. You need to think about things. You need mental acuity, and you also need mechanical dexterity to be able to play well. To be able to pot a ball every time you line up a shot is something that me and you could sit down and start training now, and by the time we're 60 and our bodies are failing us, or mine perhaps a lot sooner, we wouldn't be able to do it. Now, in the sport, there's a chap called Ronnie O'Sullivan. I'm sure you must have heard of him.
No.
Then. But
I only watch StarCraft, man. I'm sorry.
Fine. Well, he is this maverick player. His dad is doing life and murder. He's from a bit of a rough family. He's known for being a pisshead, and he does. If you Google him on YouTube, when he had to go out to China, right, he did a press conference, and because he knew none of the people at the press conference would understand what he was saying, he was just saying, yeah, "Nosh me off." Gives a blowjob, yeah, like that to these Chinese journalists, and it was caught on camera, and everyone's like, "What the fuck's he doing?" He's had loads of mental health problems. He always, sometimes when he plays against an opponent, if he thinks they're shit, he just switches to his left hand to make the game more interesting for himself. He also happens to be probably the most popular player in the game, outside of China, blowjob talk notwithstanding. And if you were to remove him from snooker, the game would suffer immensely. He's a big draw. People pay good money to watch this guy play because he's a phenomenal talent. And just the other day, he equaled the number of centuries set by any player in the game. Stephen Hendry was the person. He equaled that record, and he's got many more years ahead of him. You take him out of the game of snooker, snooker's fucked. Simple as that. In the same way that all the people that kind of got into golf because, hey, Tiger Woods, right, made it cool and interesting for a bit, but he wasn't quite as maverick, and now where are they? That Tiger Woods has just, got shit knobbly knees and is known for, banging all the bitches rather than actually fucking playing golf. You couldn't take Ronnie O'Sullivan out of snooker, and that's how I feel about Naniwa in StarCraft. I think the game just needs somebody like him, a phenomenal mercurial talent, someone who doesn't care about the pretense and the artifice, isn't fake, says what they want whenever they want, but is infinitely watchable. Even the people who hate him will watch Naniwa play. Even the people who hate him will follow him on Twitter because they just want to know what he's going to do that's going to infuriate them next. And that's that's when you've got true star power, when even people who detest you can't take their eyes off you. So him coming back to the game is huge for me.
No, he's a good bloke anyway.
Mm.
Long live the king.
Long live the fucking king.
Long live the king. I've got some other shit to talk about as well.
While you're here, Bodie.
Have you seen all the crap that's going on fucking Reddit at the moment about the GSL subscriptions?
No.
Well, basically for people that haven't seen it, the GSL, right, for 2010, 2011, and 2012, up until the WCS came in and fucked everything, the way that you watched it originally before Twitch was they had their own website called GomTV. They had like a little player that you downloaded, and you got free low quality. But if you wanted to watch it in medium, high, or source quality, you had to pay for it as part of a subscription model, right? And that was their entire fucking business. That's how they operated for the foreign fans. That's how they paid for the second half of their production room. All right. And WCS came in and said, right, you guys have got to broadcast free in high definition. As a result, GomTV as a company nearly fucking died, didn't they, Rich? They nearly went down the toilet.
Well,
If your trash talk with Wolf on that one occasion is something to go by, they were pretty well dead in the water at one stage.
Well, I'm still hoping. Here's hoping. But no, you're right. I did know about this. I did know that Blizzard insisted, actually, because they wanted equality across all of the WCS regions. And this was a huge financial dent. Dent to GOM's business model, because their business model was indeed predicated around it.
So long story short, GomTV nearly fucking died. One of the ways that they supported themselves was they had a World of Tanks contract, for the no people that watch World of Tanks, but for some reason they want to give money for people to broadcast it. They had a World of Tanks contract which helped prop them up, which kept them alive. All right. Then you look at someone like NASL, they had a World of Tanks contract as well. As soon as they lost it, they fucking died. You look at MLG. MLG had the contract for StarCraft for the first season of WCS. They did one season and fucking dropped it and ran screaming and said, fuck this. Right? Now, GomTV's been with us for 4 years. Oh, no, going on 5 years in a couple of months. Right? As the premier thing for StarCraft. As the best fucking place in the world to watch it. And there's a lynch mob constantly on Twitter trying to get them to go back to free HD when they don't have a World of Tanks contract and they've got no way to pay for it. It's like I
don't even think they have an option. They can't go back to it.
They would rather see the company fucking disappear and stop. They'd rather see the company go under than pay the $15. But they're constantly going, there's thousands of people saying it's terrible and no one will ever pay for it and that sort of stuff. GOM's still pulling 12k viewers. They had 12,000 people watching last night. But for some reason, I don't know what's going on here, but it seems like that Reddit is on the wrong end of the jerkway for a change, which is very strange. Because how can they get 12,000 people watching when every single time any thread goes up on fucking Reddit, it's a lynch mob?
Well, I mean, I think effectively we need to accept that Reddit is the lynch mob's noose of choice, isn't it? It's what we want to hang you with. We don't, please don't upvote this just to raise awareness. You know what I mean? Those threads, which are, and all I'm saying is, if this person was fired, it would make me feel better. That's what people do. They take to Reddit to make these bullshit threads. So I don't necessarily think it's been a reflection of true fans a lot of the time. But I guess what you're saying here, Bodhi, is that these people should be willing to support something that gives them, a large amount of joy, right?
Well, hasn't one of the constantly fucking talked about things that StarCraft has got a couple of chips on its shoulder, right? We never really got over not being the big dog. We really like being the big dog. Now being the third dog or the fourth dog, it's kind of shit, We're no longer top of the food chain, and it sucks. So we've never really got over that. Yeah. But it's just like I don't know. I don't know how people would rather see that company fucking die than just pay for it. But one of the things that they always talk about to say why we're still a great community to invest in is that we're older players we have more disposable income, we're willing to buy shit. That's one of the things that they always say, and that's one of the things Total Biscuit constantly goes on, and that's what a lot of people hang their hat on and say, well, we may not be the biggest dogs, but we've got big dicks and big money. But then $15 for GSL, the highest level of competition in the fucking planet. Low quality. Why don't you just cut me fucking ball sack off? It's like, it's you know, pay for something. Are you out your mind? That'd never work. And it worked for 3 years.
I mean, I remember when Murdoch Media, and I'm sure you've definitely heard of Murdoch. Yeah, similar views to my own, not surprisingly. But when he started to monopolize sports broadcasting over here, through Sky Sports, and you were having to pay a subscription fee to gain access to Premier League games, the national sport was now effectively pay-per-view. They don't use that term for it, but what else is it? I need to subscribe to the channel. To get the games, it's you may not be pay per view, but if I want to view them, I've got to pay. So it's a subscription model, and you can actually pay on a per game basis now as well. So these when that was happening, I remember all of the football advocates. They used to be right. We're going to march against this. We're going to fuck this. We're not going to allow it to happen. This is a national game. It's a disgrace. We'll make them change. Nobody subscribe. And then everyone was kind of sat around and like, kind of want to watch the games though. And it is cheaper than a ticket though. And, I've got to drive and then there's the parking and it's a ball ache. Fuck it. It's only a tenner. And then obviously the price goes up and it's only 12 and it's only 15 and whatnot. So I get that, the just pay for something idea, but sometimes it's not always the best thing to do. Like, I understand the idealist that wants to hold on and get something for free. Something they think they're entitled to, something they're passionate about. But ultimately, I totally agree with what you're saying. You
can have as much ideological shit as you want, and I'm all for it. Free everything. Fucking oath, that'd be great. But at the cost of seeing the game, the company that does it just fucking die, that's the choice. It's not a choice between, they can do it, and then they could find some other way to monetize it. Like Twitch ads. I'm sure they'd be able to pay for that studio with Twitch ads, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
like,
and there's a similar analogy, a similar situation. Because Sky charged to watch all of the sports, there's more money in the sports. So the same player who says, "Well, I don't want to pay," to have to watch the game, it's a disgrace. When that money gets pumped into his team, when they get £60 million worth of fucking TV revenue, and then they go out and they sign a 40 million world-beating player who bangs in 30 goals, gets them into the Champions League, and then they make more money and the money snowballs. They all go, "Oh, it's fucking great. Yeah, it's great. Money's great." But when it has to come out of their pockets, right? It ain't great. And that's the problem. I think esports as an industry, it's really interesting to see that, crowdfunding, for example. I mean, again, not in StarCraft, because they got burnt so many times, and I totally understand that. But, crowdfunding seen as like, oh, yeah, he's crowdfunding, he's asking for money, he's being open about it, even though, like, on Kickstarter, it's like, yeah, if they don't deliver the promise, get fucked. I mean, that's pretty much the terms and conditions of Kickstarter. But then when somebody says we're going to charge for our product, no, whoa, charge? Money? But I am but a poor white middle class student with a disposable income that eclipses probably 90% of the populated planet. You can't expect me to pay. Not me. So it is a ridiculous industry for that. I've often wondered how anyone actually makes any fucking money sometimes. Because everyone seems a right tight fucker when it comes to having to pay for stuff that they profess to like.
I don't know. Maybe that's a side effect of internet culture and BitTorrents and free music and all that shit. Maybe that's a side effect from that. As a result, everyone's just not used to paying for anything. But
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're basically done there. Unless you got
Yeah,
something else you'd like to point.
You know what, Bodie? Look, you're a great guy, and it's a good call to end on. We covered all the bases there, and I'm happy.
There is one last shout out I want to do.
Mate, you're always welcome. Go on.
It's a shout out to me actually.
That's
Because
fucking weird. Where you going?
Thanks, mate. Remember how a couple of weeks ago I was going on about how every Zerg on the planet, except for Life, didn't understand how to play TVZ mech, and you were really enthralled with that conversation.
Mate,
I could tell you were hanging on every fucking word I said.
Flew so far over my head, it got a fucking aerial shot of my bald spot. I couldn't understand a fucking word of it, mate.
Thanks, mate. Basically, I said Life was really fucking good. All the Zerg players are really fucking shit. They should copy Life. And I've said that to many pro players that explained why and all that sort of stuff. And actually, I had a couple of pro players respond. And every single one of them said, you don't know what you're fucking talking about, you cunt. As if. Then, last night, Life happened to verse the poster boy for abusive mech play last night, Gumiho, who's currently on like a ridiculous winning streak where he's won like fucking like 15 online tournaments and stuff with abusive mech play versus Zergs, and he fucking demolished him. Absolutely fucking demolished him. He bent him over the counter, put his cock so far up his fucking ass, it was tickling his tonsils. All right? So you better believe I'm tweeting those pro gamers right now. So yeah.
Oh,
God,
Bodie.
it's nice being fucking right, Rich.
Big
Holy
Bodie.
shit.
Mate, I'm telling you, it's a feeling I know all too well, even in the face of people that would tell me I'm wrong. So I think again, we're simpatico, you and I, and always will.
Holy shit. That
So
takes
there
us back to meta.
Yeah. But look, man, great to get your thoughts. I'll let you get back to your non-stop barbecue. That is the glorious life in paradise.
Thanks, mate.
And it's always great to hear from you. You look after yourself.
Yep. Shout out to Sam for having me on again. You're a legend,
Bodie.
Sam.
No worries, buddy. You're welcome anytime.
Thanks, mate.
Peace. Take care. So there you go, guys. That's the final call of the evening. It's Big Bad Bodie, the Australian who doesn't give a fuck, especially when it comes to StarCraft. That is the first time I think anyone's ever said stuck his cock so far up his arse on this show as well. So it's been a night of firsts.
It came out of his tonsils.
So that's quite the image. I'm pretty sure we violated Twitch's fucking rules and user agreements there. Scantily clad imagery.
Let me just get that broken child picture.
God, don't, please. Please don't. So there we are, man. It was a good show, actually. I'm glad we got to do it in the end. Now I know, just to say this right at the end, I know a lot of you guys kind of tuned in and were expecting First Blood tonight. One of our guests dropped. We've still not heard from him because I didn't want to serve up a subpar show, which I think ultimately, you know, we'd kind of structured part of the show around talking to Soldra. It would have been kind of lame to sort of fill it at short notice. So we're aiming to do First Blood on the weekend. That's the plan. I don't know if it'll transpire. It depends on everyone's schedules, but there will be a First Blood this week. Obviously, Josh won't be involved. Just to give you an update on Josh's situation, because I know many of you will have seen the thread, which was bizarrely deleted by Reddit mods at one point, revealing that he'd had a seizure. Which obviously is very serious. He went to the A&E. He was well looked after by the Team Fusion guys. They spotted it early. They took him straight to the hospital. They did a great job. The ER people said there's no like damage. There's no underlying condition. He's had more tests just to be absolutely sure. He's been very well looked after, very well cared for, and the good news is it's good news. So we're hoping to get Josh back on the show in the future. The main thing is for now, though, because obviously when you're under the weather, and I don't know, you know, if anyone who's experienced a seizure knows they're quite scary, can leave you a bit unsteady. You know, we're going to let Josh rest up for as long as he wants to before he comes back and feels up to doing the show. That's the very least we can do as friends. So if you guys want to jump onto his stream. He's back playing and practicing now. I don't know if he's streaming at the moment, but he has been the last couple of days. And wish him well. I know he'd really appreciate that, and he definitely appreciated all of the well wishes on Reddit and Twitter and all the First Blood fans and everything else. So thanks for your support. Trash Talk will be back on Tuesday of next week. That's the plan. We're going to try and stick to a schedule. You know, going to not let it slip. Fuck off, Sam. But to all the people who called in, to all the people who watched, I just want to say thanks. And your support does mean a lot to me, and it means a lot to Sam. Because, you know, he gets the ad revenue from the stream. Obviously you don't, but can we perpetuate that lie, please?
Yeah, why not?
So Sam, of course, Sam gets the ad revenue from this stream, don't you, Sam?
Yeah, all 30 pence.
There we go. Good. God bless you, Adblock. But yeah, so tune in next time, Tuesday. We'll have more of your calls, trawling through the world of esports and getting your opinions. Again, thanks to all the callers, thanks to all the viewers. I will see you then. Look after yourselves.